And we are into bans and picks. So I believe the coin toss or the however it was determined, M5 are going to have first ban, first pick. I wonder if we're going to see similar sorts of bans and picks that we've seen last night. Fnatic, in fact, removing Karthus a couple of times from the banning pool. And we know Alexich plays an incredibly mean Karthus. And in fact, removing Kassadin after watching Peke last night, after watching how many times Peke played that champion, not wanting to deal with him. And very quick, Urgot Twisted Fate removed from the pool as well.
I've actually seen Kassadin get banned up from Moscow 5 before, but XPK does have that solid character, so you know what, just get rid of him. If you know they're good with a character and you don't want to deal with it, just trash it. Just make sure you don't leave anything else open that's terrifying. Moscow 5, though, they have a very unique banning style. They ban just what's relevant to them. They don't care so much about the meta as much as what scares them, or what can affect their team composition.
And they've always done that a lot in terms of their playstyle, you know, opting to go for the bans of the champions that they don't want to deal with. And I was just about to say, I wonder if they're going to ban Nautilus, because I don't think I've actually seen Diamond Prox playing Nautilus. And of course, we know Cyanide plays a very, very good Nautilus, and immediately following it up with the Nocturne ban. So, you know, very strong champions being removed from the pool, getting rid of Urgot, making sure that Genja doesn't get him on that bottom lane. TF Kassadin removed from Pekis, Nautilus from Cyanide. But Shen is available, yeah.
Yeah. So leaving out one strong character, I mean, that's what the banning phase is all about, just trying to put yourself in the best position to pick up one strong character, leave them as far behind as possible. And characters like Shen are awesome because you have that fluidity of where you can put him. You can put him top, you can put him in the jungle. There are so many choices with Shen. Hell, put him mid lane. It might work, I don't know. There are so many choices with him that you have options available. They don't know what you're going to do for sure, so they cannot build a specific team composition expecting Shen up in that top lane. And
of course, the way Darien plays Shen in particular, it's phenomenally well. I stand to be corrected on this one, but I think every game I've casted where Darien has had a Shen, they've been victorious. So it's a bit scary, but of course it does potentially allow a counter pick, you know, once we get a little bit to these later stages. And something a little bit, I don't use the word unusual, but Fnatic really wanting to go for their AD carry and support bot lane, locking in Soraka and Corki, as opposed to maybe going for, you know, a safer support and jungle pick.
That is true, but I think there is no lane as safe as Soraka Corki. It has push, it has, you know, the 550 range. Soraka Graves is comparable in safeness, but that 25 range difference can, you know, be life or death every now and then. But Soraka Corki, I mean, they're not gonna die unless they just get initiated on in such a surprising way they're caught out, or if they make a mistake.
Let's have a look here. Gosu Pepper asking for the link of the stream. So let's share that with them so you can check it out. And Diamond Prox hovering over Maokai. I think this is going to be a first for me. I don't think I've ever seen him playing Maokai.
I'm actually looking at a page of all the characters he's played. Maokai has not been played very often, no. I would actually say, yeah, they've swapped off Maokai. And Diamond Prox just doesn't have the experience with some of the traditional junglers, but he always has, you know, that bucket of crazy things he can play. He can play, for example, Zen Zhao. He can play Skarner. Skarner and Zen Zhao are both good characters, but they've both really fallen off. So we'll see if he busts out that Purple Scorpion.
And something else to take note of, that could also be a very big psych out play. You know, sitting on Maokai for 30-40 seconds, we know that Cyanide has played Maokai before. We know Cyanide picks Maokai, you know, from time to time. And especially recently, if Nautilus gets banned out against him, he picks Maokai because it's a very similar type of playstyle, very similar gank-heavy jungler. And, you know, it could be a psycho. It could be going, right, we want you to take Maokai. We're confident in our composition, and here we go. You know, this is potentially Fnatic picking it. So it could be a psychological player on behalf of Moscow 5 going, we know how to counter this. We want you to play this champion because we've seen you doing it, and we know what to expect. But I'm excited about this. Peke playing in Nivea, and I've seen leading up to DreamHack, the weeks before DreamHack, a lot of EU teams playing in Nivea, you know, in anticipation of coming up against CLG EU. And Peke played a particularly good Cryo Phoenix, so I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, Pekka has definitely put in the time and the work to actually get good at that good old Ice Bird, so I'm glad to see it. that is a zillion. Then again, it's Moscow 5, so I don't believe what they're actually choosing until they lock in. But imagine this. Imagine you are a Fnatic. You are talking about their picks. You see them put in Maokai. You see him hold it for 30 seconds. You have started to plan around that Maokai. You expect Maokai to be on their team. So it may not be a psych out because of just, just showing that we know you can play it. That is a possibility. There's always just a chance, though, where it's just kind of wasting their time and setting them down a wrong train of thought. Like, have you ever been in Champion Select and you see in ranked or draft mode and you see them choose someone? You don't really pay attention, and then they swap the last second, and you may eventually like notice, but you essentially just don't get out of that mindset for a little while. You're just like, man, they have that character. I'm gonna play to counter that character.
Yeah, it's very, very true. I'm a victim of that. I've done that a couple of times myself, going, I'll pick to counter this. Oh, wait, when did that change? But take a look at the last two picks in from Moscow 5, Vlad and Kennen. So we're going to see Diamond procs with Shen in the jungle.
Now, I actually wonder where the Vladimir will go, because Vladimir in the top lane versus Aurelia, if Aurelia gets ahead at all, he will just eventually start dying and never stop. That Aurelia will just blade search to him, stun him, or slow him. Vladimir will generally be at higher HP if the fight hasn't started. But there's so much potential for Aurelia just to beat up Vladimir. It's actually a very scary top lane. They're going to have to go ahead, play this very safely, and it will be Darien, so it most likely is going to be top lane for that Vladimir.
Darien is particularly well known for his Vlad as well. He's played that champion many, many times, so I expect he knows the matchup, and I think knowing that he's a bit of a disadvantage, take a look at his mastery, 0-9-21, opting to go CDR, Magic Pen, a little bit of armor, and 6% spell vamp bonus on his rune page. So 6% base on top of the masteries, which give him an additional 3%. He's starting with nearly 10% spell vamp without any itemization at all. So you can definitely see he knows what he's coming up against. He knows he's going to need to sustain and maybe just try and play a farm defensive game at his tower.
That is actually an awesome rune page for Vladimir. So something cool about that is because normally Aurelia versus Vladimir, Aurelia pressures a lot at like level 1. Vladimir can eventually retaliate with auto attacks just because Blade Surge has a long cooldown. But the problem is Vladimir's sustain is crappy. He doesn't have good sustain, but now he'll get more or less, I don't want to say double the HP, but he's getting a significant chunk of HP back with every cast besides that just base HP. That 9% spell vamp, it adds up very quickly when you consider how much Vladimir will end up spamming by level 5.
And taking a look at some of the rest of the rune pages now, Genja 007 rocking a 1911 on his masteries, opting to take 2 points into Indomitable. Reduces incoming damage by 2. And then a pretty standard rune page, but a little bit of an unorthodox page, not going for the full 21 points in offense.
I've actually seen this a few times. Ashe builds are weird. I've seen Ashes go for the utility mastery just so they can kite more. Indomitable is just a really good spell, though. It lets you not necessarily ignore creep damage in lane, but it will, I believe, half the melee damage from melee minions, and then range minions will still hurt, but not quite as much. So it actually gives you a lot of control in terms of just auto-attacking in lane, harassing, showing that potential. He also has a point in Butcher. I guess with his mass, yeah, okay, he's running heal. It's actually really funny to see somebody take a point in Butcher. And I guess the 1 AP would not be that useful for the 1-to-1 ratio on Ashe's ultimate.
Yeah, exactly. And taking a look at some of the rest of them, the rest of the pages look fairly standard for the most part. Movement, speed, ability, power being worn by Pekes and Nivea. And 2109 on his masteries. 2 points into mana, 2 points into the movement speed. But nothing too exhilarating. Flash heal on Genja, flash ignite on Gosu Pepper. So looking to run maybe a slightly more aggressive kill lane in that bottom line.
And actually, these might be interesting runes. So, okay. He has a bit of MP5. Support runes are very odd. You can get, there's like varying levels of greediness. Go ahead. Do the basics of support runes. You normally want to go for some sort of GP10. If you're very scared of the lane, you'll usually just get armor or magic resist instead, depending on the lane. If you look at Gosu Pepper's rune page, he has a combination of armor in the reds and armor yellows, GP5 Quints, which are the best source of GP5. And he also has mana regen reds, which I like because I guess he did not expect to take that much damage as Sona. He's not going to be an aggressive, harassing Sona. He'll be mostly defensive, but any sort of mana regeneration on Sona is going to be huge. She just eats through it so quickly. It is amazing how quickly she can go through mana. I mean, her spells are always 65 mana, except for heal, which will actually scale up. And when you cast, 3 spells at level 3 and it's 200 mana, that is generally half your mana pool.
Yeah, it's gonna be difficult, and of that, this is now game loading in. So we've taken a look at the runes, we've taken a look at some of the mastery pages. Game number 1, Fnatic versus Moscow 5. I'm happy to see Sona once again. That Crescendo has been out of play for a very long time. It's been a while since we've seen Sona in top level competitive.
I've seen some of the, I don't want to say not top level, just just short of it. Some of the teams who are not necessarily won a tournament in North America running that Sona. It's really hard to actually survive as they're later on, but there is no insta burst from Graves. There is Corki who does tremendous amounts of damage, but the question is, can they actually close that distance, get out that harass before Ashe can respawn, before Sona can use her own ultimate to try and play safely? But yeah, Graves versus Sona is just the saddest thing in the world because Sona just dies. And health potions flying at us from the bottom of the screen as every player purchases them and they grow huge.
Boots pots on Sona, in fact. Boots, ward, and double pots as opposed to that Fairy Charm opening. So going to be a little bit delayed on picking up the Philosopher's Stone or that first GP10 item. But yeah, the movement speed buff, maybe giving credos or giving credit to the fact that they want to play more aggressively, want to use those different hymns, those different chords, get the damage boost, give the movement speed boost, and just allow some damage to be placed onto the players.
We do have an invade coming out from Fnatic. They want to try and catch someone. There was a ping onto where Ghosty Pepper is.
Oh, sorry, I am just. I heard there was a little bit of lag on stream, so studio, if anything happens, I am on directed camera, but just making sure the players know what's happening.
I'll talk through it. So Ghosty Pepper wisely not waiting in that bush because it doesn't provide very safe vision. And the invasion is there from Fnatic. They have been spotted, but they have spotted the rest of Moscow 5. They're going to try and put a ward down into this brush area so they can keep vision of the race. Okay, they'll put it there. A little stronger ward would be in the brush, but not necessarily that important. So the ward hasn't been spotted. There are now saplings everywhere. This will actually make Cyanite's jungle a little worse, but if he gets enough backup from the rest of Team Fnatic, he's going to be perfectly fine, perfectly safe. Now, they have a lot of vision coverage. All of a sudden, Diamond Prox is actually not in a good position to go ahead and do anything. As actually, Philiax and Lime are going to come here and harass him. So he does pick up the big raid, but yeah, they are just screwing with his jungle, which is a great idea because Shen is not a particularly fast jungler. He's a great ganker, but he's not a good jungler. So
a little bit of an invade there. Small poke, I think Lamia just a millisecond too late to actually get in range of maybe stealing that big raid. But nevertheless, a little bit of damage done. Delayed him a couple of seconds at least. It's going to allow Cyanide to pick up this blue buff. I think he's actually going to pick it up without using Smite, which is the case, in fact, because now he's picked it up. He's got that Smite available. He'll be able to get double buff a little, or double buffed a little bit quicker. And maybe, once again, pointing out that Cyanide wants to gank earlier, wants to get into lane, use that Twisted Advance and that Arcane Smash, and maybe try put early blood in favor of Soaz up in this top lane.
Now, what was really funny about that is actually Cyanide did not finish his blue buff particularly quickly, so he saved his Smite, which was cool. But if you look at the support he got, it was Philiax just throwing bananas left and right. And that invade actually slowed his jungle down quite a bit because of Maokai and how he has to set up his own jungling route.
So I suppose both junglers now being put a tiny bit behind. But it is going to come down to these kills. It is going to come down to first blood and whether or not whichever team can start to snowball. But at the moment, nothing really happening. Not a lot of aggression in any of the lanes, in fact. It feels like...
Bot Lane is actually throwing out a few volleys every now and then. Has actually harassed Lamia quite low, about half HP, but there's, Philiax just giving him her blessings.
And tossing out the healing, and we do see in this top lane now, Cyanide has managed to move in. But Diamond Prox is so close. This is a level 3 Cyanide. He's going to move. The Blade Surge goes up. So has managed to pick up land the Ignite down onto Darien. Blade Surge now available. A great taunt. Ignite now down onto Soaz. First Blood ends up going to Darien in this top lane, and that's going to help a lot. The Twisted Advance goes at long range. The Arcane Smash goes up. That's going to pick up the final damaging tick. Diamondprox is considering this dive. Huge wave of creeps here. This is really going to help Cyanide in his jungle. Really going to give him an advantage, but that's going to put Soaz even further behind. Beautiful juke from Xpeke there. He's going to keep moving across. The Lightning Shuriken comes out. The Sapling Toss goes over. If they manage to pop the egg, it's going to put Xpeke a little bit behind. But all this experience is only going to help Cyanide.
Actually, what's funny about that is they did not actually get the kill onto Xpeke or Cyanide, but they did force them into a position where there are actually 3 people up in the top lane now. All that mid experience is not being used by anybody except Shen, who is going to actually catch out Xpeke.
That is going to be now the Rebirth taunted a long-range Twisted Advanced, and Soaz is in the mix now, trying to put this pressure into Diamondprox. If he picks up this kill, that's going to be now the double buff onto Soaz. That could help him out. Xpeke manages to land the Flash Frost. That was huge! Point blank Flash Frost. And Fnatic immediately turning around 3-1 now. And a double buff Soaz, that's going to make Darien's life hard.
So what was actually a great catch has turned into overcommitment. So much gold in favor of Fnatic, so much experience in favor of Fnatic. Now a big creep wave building up top lane that Darius is going to miss a little chunk of. Darien. And that was awesome. Unfortunately, Anivia's egg, even though it had reduced armor and magic resist, which is what Diamondprox was hoping for, was not low enough to actually burn through, despite Diamondprox being that scary ninja.
So let's have a quick look at the moment. Cyanide, 2,000 gold in the bank in comparison to 1,300 in his counterpart. Sitting on 1,500 banked. He is level 6 already. Diamondprox is only just hit level 4. He's about a third of the way to level 5. So Cyanide significantly further ahead. But what do you do in a position like that? What do you do as a jungler at 5 minutes with that much gold? And the answer is buy a Philosopher's Stone and a Heart of Gold. And that's it, in fact. So Optinx just goes for those double GP10s. And I suppose that's going to translate to earlier items for him anyways.
It's kind of an old StarCraft adage. When you're ahead, get farther ahead. So he's not going to go for anything crazy. He's not going to go for an Oracles, which he could go for, but Moscow 5 doesn't tend to ward that much. He's just going to go ahead and buy those 2 GP5s that will put him significantly ahead, and you'll just get that amazing gold income so early in the game that it will just build up incredibly quickly.
Oh, and look at the exchange from Soaz in this top lane. He lands the Blade Surge, or dashes forward onto Darien. Blade Surges to a creep. Lands an auto attack onto Darien. He immediately Sanguine pulls away. And compliments of that cooldown reduction when you kill a creep with your Blade Surge, then he just follows it up straight again onto Darien. And as long as he's got that blue buff and red buff up for the next couple of seconds or a little bit of time, it's definitely going to help him out.
Making the most of it, really with a slow at level 5 is just a terrifying concept. There are a few advantages though. Alexich, can kill Xpeke now. They both have their flashes down, so if he ever gets a good lightning surge into Xpeke with his ultimate, which he does have now, he's in a great position to go for a kill.
I'm just trying to look at this composition actually, if you think about it. If we get to the later stages of the game, the team fights, and you've got Kennen and Vladimir diving in and amongst the team, Hemo Plague, Slicing Maelstrom, and that Lightning Surge being tossed out, a well-placed Crystallized Wall could completely remove both Gosu Pepper and Genja from the team fight. Shen has the ability to dash through it. He's most likely going to be up front as well, but if Gosu and Genja are trying to kite, Lamia looks like he's in a little bit of trouble. If that Crescendo was over, Ignite actually goes down as well. Gosu Pepper does not afraid Corki and reduces them down to 80 points of to health.
Actually, some miscommunication there from Genja and Gosu Pepper. That harass could have easily been followed up with at least a... Well, actually, there is no heal in the bot lane, so that would have been a kill if Genja had just responded a bit quicker. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but hey, they can take... Never mind, he's at full HP again. Soraka...
Oh, this is going to be scary. Cyanide's not going to be moving. Look at Gosu Pepper. The Twisted Advance goes out. Ignite is down. Crescendo goes out, but it's not going to stop the kill. In fact, Ash Arrow locks up Lamia. Lamia gets away with sub 30 hit points and somehow escapes with his life.
Oh, he was in the Maokai ultimate, wasn't he?
Yes, Vengeful Maelstrom was up actually, so that was the damage reduction.
Vengeful Maelstrom saving the day. Actually one of the best ultimates in the game in terms of damage reduction. Oh god, Genja getting caught up by Cyanide. He has enough mana to do his combo. He's currently trying to get away. And the Shenalt does save him in the end.
While that's happening in the mid lane, Peke manages to pick up a kill, so I'm going to quickly... Oh man, I'm going to quickly rewind this one. I do have the 23 gold now stuck on screen rather. Very easy kill coming up from Pick at the end of the day, to be honest. He was dropped pretty low, and I think if that stun maybe could have caught up, it would have picked up the kill, but nicely done. And Fnatic just starting to extend their lead, 5-1 up in kills, 2,000 gold nearly. Haven't opted to go for a very early dragon just yet, but they could do so if they wanted to.
Unfortunately, it can not get that kill. It's actually very scary for Moscow 5. They have a late game composition, they have a mid game composition, Anivia amazing mid game, and the rest of Fnatic is incredibly good in the late game, so they're actually in a very bad position for how this game is starting. They have to get some control, they have to watch out, they have to not die anymore. It's going to be the big thing.
I'm just busy watching the Soaz Darien battle up in the top lane, and every single time Soaz dives into Darien, he's coming out immensely further ahead with the damage, immensely further ahead with those trades. And for the guys on stream, I do apologize. When you hit that rewind button, if there is a gold number up on screen, it does get stuck there. But it will go away at the end of the game. It will not be there for the entire stream, just game number 1. I apologize about that.
We could put it there for the entire stream if you like. It is an option. I don't know if the guys at IPL want that, but we can go ahead and try it out. But Moscow 5, what do they do now? How do they get back into this? So the ganks worked out relatively well. They blew Egg, they did get a kill on the Soaz. First blood actually, but it was obviously not the most efficient thing. But they can't just let Cyanide bully them. Cyanide's scary right now. They have to make sure he doesn't go crazy and just keep killing everybody. And then bot and Ghost Pepper taking a lot of damage actually. Lamia getting low himself, the ult used by both Lamia and Ghost Pepper, able to escape that situation in a very sudden exchange.
And Wish was blown out as well from Felox, so that's a an ultimate down from Soraka, which is very, very powerful. Can swing those team fights back and forth.
Actually, up in the top lane, it looks like Darien has just been pushed to his tower, has no HP. The ultimate and Ignite are down from Soaz, so he's in a scary position right now. Soaz actually dives underneath the tower, the Sandwing Pool comes out, he's going to be able to HP regen from these creeps. Soaz is still looking for that kill, going to try and get as much HP as he can, and here comes Maokai.
Alright, do me a favor, it does appear the lag is back, so Darien is going to be flashing away. I'm going to quickly chat onto Skype to the guys. You take this fight away.
Okay, so Alexic taking a lot of damage, so I was trying not to die, and he will be successful. Alexic getting out of what was a horrible situation for him in the end, and that's just terrifying, by the way, the fact that Soaz not died and scored now 2-6. There was a kill picked up in the bot lane.
I tell you what, pause your video at 11:23. For everybody that is on stream, we are going to pause this game so you guys don't miss any of the action. I am going to quickly talk to some of the admins at the moment. And I believe that the problem is potentially down with the streamers. Let me see if I can get a reply from one of the admins. Well, it does look like now it is coming back to normal, in fact. So, video is now paused. I'm live. I tell you what, let me just quickly, let's push pause. 11:23, I'm going to push play. And see if the stream is continuing to lag. If it is continuing to lag, I'm just going to do a refresh. Because that solved it last time when we picked a different server. So,
okay.
Sorry about this one. I am just doing a quick test. So I've hit press play. I'm at 11:40 on my clock, and I'm waiting for the live stream to update on the left-hand side. I've got 2 screens set up, so if everybody that's wondering, I'm busy watching the video. There we go. It appears it may have just been server lag because the stream seems to be okay.
Okay, well, what time are you at?
I am at 12:05. And yeah, it does appear that's it. So, okay, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to pause it at 12:15. Get yourself up to 12:15. All right, for everybody that is on stream, the video is now paused. All right, it will be in a...
It is live. I believe we are good to go.
All right, sweet. Well, then I'm going to hit play. And let's hope that this lag doesn't go. So let's go in 3, 2, 1. I'm now at 12:19 on my clock. Kill-wise, 6-2. We did see a trade going down. I think 1 kill going in favor of Moscow 5, 1 kill going in favor of Fnatic. But I do have my advertisement running on the left-hand side. So if you guys are back, let's hope the lag has been resolved.
So there was also a dragon being picked up by Moscow 5, bringing them much closer to this game. Only a 1400 goal difference now, but Fnatic is still looking very strong. That Maokai showing his amazing tree prowess, going with these kills all over the game.
And we do see now pressure up in this top lane. Hemo Plague goes out. Darren is trying his best to stay alive. That Hemo Plague may actually be enough to pick up the kill, but the Wish too strong. And it does appear that that lag is still there, guys. I'm very, very sorry about this one. I can try another server, but at the moment, I'm not 100% sure. Some people saying it's lagging, some people saying it's not. So I tell you what, Studio, can you fly solo for a bit while I talk to Mr. Nick and see if we can resolve this issue?
Sure. Go do what you need to do, quick shot. I will just talk through this directly to the camera. Still some pressure coming out from the bot lane. Genja taking a lot of just poke from Corki. Unfortunately, there is not good sustain from Sona. She is decent at sustaining. As up in the top lane, Cyanide applies the pressure. Here's XP coming in from the back. Diamondprox will be able to survive because they're not going to dive a Shen. But just a nice, well-coordinated gank up here in the top lane. They're shutting down Daring, which is amazing for them. He's only got 81 CS versus Soaz is 103. And Vladimir is not someone who has trouble CSing. They actually go on Diamondprox now. He does taunt away, he flashes away, he has that faint will not die to ignite, but Soaz is on the run. Here comes that Iceberg, just needs one anything. That would be a one anything. I was hoping for a Frostbite, because that would be a bit more interesting than the ult and picking of ignite, but that was a kill on the Shen. And they are just being aggressive. They're applying pressure throughout the map. Moscow 5 is not responding appropriately as Alex Switch actually goes low to a tower in the mid lane. The ignite is used on the Lamia. Here comes the damage, the pressure, the heal is on cooldown for Soraka. They do pick up Lamia, so the bot lane is doing decently at least, with a 1-0-1 score. And of course Gosu Pepper 1-1-1 himself. Sonas do need all the kills. And Moscow need to make sure that they just don't fall too far behind. At this point, Darien will just die to Soaz. Soaz can kill him non-stop with this long chase and apply with the tower down in the top lane. There is no escape for Soaz unless Shen ultimates, unless there is a gank from Ken, unless someone is there to back him up. And the problem is, once you have to rely on the team movement, you're a much more ineffective team. It's actually going for Soaz right now. Taking a lot of damage just from the Shen burst and Vladimir burst, and just die in this top lane actually. So this is actually a good example of what they would need to do, just going ahead, picking up these kills. Now Vladimir has a decent chunk of gold, only one level behind, going to have plenty of time to push up the creep wave farm and go back and buy whatever he wants to buy.
So it does seem like the lag has disappeared. I do apologize to everybody on stream. I'm not 100% certain where that has come from, but it appears to have stopped. So 8-4, 2,000 gold difference. Moscow 5 not out of it. Only one tower down, but that is of course Peke's tower. So do you expect to see Peke now roaming with Anivia, trying to use that Crystallize and Flash Frost to pick up some kills in some of the other lanes?
Anivia or Alex Switch? Well, Alex Switch can roam a bit more by pushing up to the turret. Peke just wants to keep farming. He doesn't have his Rod of Ages completed. He doesn't have his Chalice, or I guess that just might be a null magic mantle for null magic mantle's sake. So he doesn't have his items complete. He wants to go ahead and keep farming up. Alex Switch can roam, but it has not been successful so far. Every time he's roamed, him or someone else has died as a result.
And actually, let's have a look at farm really quickly, because the gold difference is only one dragon in favor of Moscow 5, if I recall correctly. But they've really kept up in gold. 63 CS on Shen, 77 Maokai. Mids, 117 actually behind. Oh, it's slightly ahead of Peke. Bot lane, about 10 or so ahead, and top lane, about 10 or so behind. So where is all this extra gold coming from? Killing sprees, I suppose, actually. Oh no, even that's not even possible.
Yeah, the only killing spree they would have to get would be from XPK, who has not died yet. They did pick up that dragon, and a lot of those kills were solo kills. In the end, gold isn't that great from the kills. The big lead you get is from experience. I mean, League of Legends is a game of global objectives, and you actually want to kind of consider your creep waves to be an objective. You want to get all that CS in farm that you can. This is not a very important objective compared to other things, but they haven't actually gained a whole lot of gold from killing someone and, denying a creep wave or getting a whole lot of farm in response. And because the gold difference isn't that big, the experience difference is there though. They're a bit more ahead in experience, but overall you're right, the gold is fairly equal.
Yeah, it's very strange to actually see that in place when you consider all the numbers. But let's see, GP10's ticking over. We've got 1, 2, 3 on the side of Moscow 5. And in fact, 4 sitting on the side of Fnatic. And Irelia opting to go Wits End and Sheen first, really trying to play aggressive against that Vladimir. And it seems to be paying off. I mean, the tower's down, got a small CS advantage, and 2-4 for Darien in comparison to 2-2-4 for Soaz. Oh, look at that. So nicely done. Beautiful crescendo. I was watching the abilities and then forgot that I actually had to shoutcast it. So, thrown a little bit behind. While the kill takes place in the bottom lane, Fnatic pick up the tower in the mid lane. A very nice crystallize. Immediately followed up by the twisted advance. Darien is trying to get away. Blade surges away. 27 hit points. A flash over the wall, and I didn't actually see what that final tick was. It was Ignite.
That was Ignite, yeah. That was the first tick of Ignite, just blowing him up instantly. They're actually going to try and pressure this mid tower. That was Darien just being out of position. The Nebula Wall combined with Maokai's Root. Maokai's Root, by the way, ignores Vladimir's pull, so you will apply the Root even though he can pull and dodge everything else. I guess it's because they're both underground for a bit. I'm not too sure about that one.
I like the things, but take a look at what Moscow 5 did immediately. They ran straight to Dragon and picked up an uncontested free Dragon. They're still only 300 gold behind. They're a tower down, and those two Dragons are just keeping all that gold difference in their favor.
With a 3-kill difference, that's going to be about at most 1,200 gold with assist factored in. So they're balancing that out. They are still a little bit behind, but frankly, that little bit doesn't matter that much. Now, where is the gold is going to be the big question, because a lot of that gold does go to Gosu Pepper. And Gosu Pepper, as nice as he is on that Sona, doesn't actually need that much gold, and other characters do. So, Darien actually has 6,000, doing really well for himself, and Genja has 7,000. So Alex Sitch is a bit behind, but Alex Sitch only needs that Zhonya's really.
And what do you think now? What do you think in terms of itemization now between our carries? You've got Infinity Edge and Zeal completed on Ashe in comparison to the Corki Berserker's Greaves on, Lamia's Corki. Is the Trinity Force going to be able to put out more damage when you factor in all the abilities from Corki in comparison to the just outright Zeal attack speed of Genja?
Well, it all depends on how they try and play this matchup. And Genja, if he tries to go ahead and play a very poke-oriented matchup, and as a response, Lamia does the same thing, it'll be much more in Lamia's favor, just because if he lands those rockets and follows it up with an auto attack, that's a Triforce proc. And Triforce on Corki isn't the most damaging thing in the world, but it still really hurts when it hits you, factoring that true damage passive especially. So the damage is there if they go for a poke-oriented matchup, very, very pig-based, very tasty. But if Ashe, is all in, if Ashe is just beating up Corki, and she's getting those crits while he's just getting those Triforce procs, Infinity Edge is just by far the most cost-efficient damaging item in the game for an AD carry. You can actually stack Infinity Edges, and per slot, it's more valuable. Overall, it's going to be more efficient to, pick up Zeal or Phantom Dancers and all that. But, I mean, Infinity Edge is ridiculously good for increasing damage.
And we've entered somewhat of a strange passage of play now, because towers are down, dragons are down. We've seen a little bit of sort of miniature team engagements, but now both teams have just sort of reverted back to lane phase again. Nobody's really leaving the lane. They're all farming up, and I don't know if this is a little bit of respect or a little bit of fear for counterparts, because neither team willing to commit or push. I mean, Cyanide is coming now down into this bottom lane to set up for a gank, but it's a little bit strange.
Really, the odd thing about this is it's actually the time for Moscow 5 to be aggressive. They just started finishing their items, and now that they have the Abyssal Scepter, now they actually have the Void Staff on Vladimir, which is something really, really odd. They can go ahead and start, making these big plays because they know they have this big bonus, but they haven't decided to do that. They might be waiting for the Aegis. They might just be trying to, continue this laning game, which, even though it didn't work out very much at first, has really kind of came back actually.
Yeah, being able to sit a little bit more defensively, both Alexic and Darien being able to sit by the interior tower, it allows them to just camp out, allows them to farm a bit more safely. I mean, look at Darien here, completely frozen in this lane. It's going to stay in his favor for a little bit longer. As the second I say that, he starts using the Tides of Blood to let his pick up those creep kills. But, I suppose they're just buying time, exactly like you said, buying the ability to pick up some items. And from there, then transfer into some slightly more upfront team fights. And I think I like the combination. That double AP of Vlad Kennen is going to do very well. If Diamond Prox is able to get off a good Shadow Dash taunt, it is going to help quite a lot. And are we going to see him getting caught up? There goes the stun. Taunt locks up. Crystal Arrow into Crescendo, into Taunt, and Lamia effectively just deleted from the game. Wish does go out from Felox, and I feel that was a bit wasted. It was pretty apparent he was going to go down. Alexic is now going to be the next target. And the Crystallized Wall is available, is going to get used, as well as the Hemo Plague and that Slicing Maelstrom's going down, but it's in and amongst the Vengeful Maelstrom, so the damage really reduced quite extensively.
Too many maelstroms.
Yeah, Maelstrom, but a pretty easy kill at the end of the day. Although saying that, I mean, the two ultimates alone, look how low Soaz and Cyanide went. Here's going to be the flash. The crystallized wall goes up. Darien does manage to juke away from it. But a lot of DPS just with the combination of those two ultimates from Kennen and Vladimir.
Kennen, Vladimir, Karthus, Vladimir. Vladimir and any big AoE damage dealer is just this amazing combo just because that 12% increase is going to apply to so many people and really just, it pumps people up. The damage is incredibly high between Alexich and Darien. That's why Darien rushed for a Void Staff. You do not see Void Staff second on Vladimir ever. I've never seen this item build. And it hurts. It's going to make him hurt a lot. He's not going for that tankiness. He's not going for that sustain. He just wants to burst people down with Hemoplague along with Alexich. So it's a really cool combo. It's actually very risky because he is incredibly easy to kill right now, but they're also relying on the fact that they have two Wodas. They still have 40% lifesteal, or not lifesteal, but spell vamp. And actually what's cool is Darien does have the extra, I believe, 9% from Runes and Masteries, so when Alexich and Darien are next to each other,
49%.
Darien has 49% spell vamp, which is insane.
Huge, and when you consider the damage in Hemoplague, that's hitting for 380 before resistances. And remember, he's got the Vamp Scepter, sorry, the Void Staff in conjunction with the debuff from Abyssal Scepter. So that's going to be hitting, you know, a higher percentage of that number. In addition, if it hits multiple targets, that's, you know, 380 per target that it procs on. So you're going to see Darien shrink to nearly no life, but then jump right back up after a couple of seconds, and when that Hemoplague eventually ticks off.
We actually covered this yesterday. If they're fighting in creeps, that'll be huge for Darien, just because every little creep that dies to Hemoplague is that much more HP coming back to him. And here comes a dragon, and look at the gold difference. Only a 100 gold difference with that bottom turret falling in favor of Moscow 5. They're looking really strong right now in terms of just their map control. The ganks have been there, the kills have been there for Fnatic, but that bot lane, that Gosu, Pepper, Genja, Death combo has really shown its effectiveness, and I mean, right now, Moscow 5 looking so strong, taking the gold lead for the first time this game.
And we see that we know that there's no wards in here. Cyanide has been clearing those wards out with that Oracle's Elixir. They now know that Moscow 5 are moving in. Flash Frost actually misses onto Gosu Pepper, and that's immense. The Crescendo comes out, locks out a couple of people. Hemoplague is down, manages to catch 3 members of Fnatic, but the first one to go down is in fact going to be Alexich. Now Genja with that Infinity Edge, dealing all the damage in the world. Darien picks up a counter kill onto Fnatic, so it's a 1-for-1 exchange. Make that 2-for-1 as Darien has now been dropped. In the background, Expector gets blown up. Ash is running rampant. Lamia should know how to deal with this. Lamia should know how powerful that is. Double kill, in fact, for Genja. Scumbag Genja picking up 2 as the support. Felox gets locked up with the tank, with the Shadow Dash taunt. And that's an ace in comparison for losing their double AP. Not targeting Genja means that he was able to run around that entire fight and deal damage at will, effectively. And a very, very easy team fight win for Moscow 5 at the end of the day.
That was actually a really sloppy team fight. You mentioned the Crescendo. It actually missed no one, or hit no one. He tried to Crescendo and flash immediately. He did the exact opposite. He flashed Crescendoed, and that did not touch anybody. So in the heat of the moment, like, he whiffed his skills. I thought it hit a couple of people, but I watched them. They weren't dancing. They weren't busting a groove. And that fight, even though they didn't have that CC, it was just Alexich and Darien rushing in, and their damage was immense. They just hit so hard, even though Vladimir doesn't have any like real health. He just has spell vamp. He was able to survive, even though Alexich didn't have that zone yet, so he was able to survive for long enough. And if you watch Darien towards the end of that fight, what killed Cyanide wasn't just Genja using as a power chord, it was Genja and that one last Tides of Blood, I believe it's called. Yes, Tides of Blood coming out from Darien and just hitting him hard. So it doesn't even matter that Darien dies. It matters that he just gets, you know, maybe 2 or 3 Tides of Blood, and the damage stacks so high so quickly that the AoE will just murder people. That was an incredibly well played fight for Moscow 5. At the end, Fnatic need to also back up a little quicker. Lamia won at the last second. It's like, I'm going to take all of you down. But with that Triforce, he doesn't have the damage. He just is not as heavy hitting as Ash, which is unfortunate, but that is the risk of Triforce Corki.
And it's so powerful, so scary from Moscow 5. That team fight, when you consider that how well they won it, if the Crescendo had landed, imagine how quickly Fnatic would have been deleted. If they had been locked up, it would have been a team ace.
That would have been a 5 for 0 or 5 for 1.
Yeah, team ace. It would have allowed literally just Vladimir and Kennen to run rampant through the entire team and tear them apart. And I see we are climbing in viewer numbers. So for those of you who have just joined and don't know, this is the IPL5 EU qualifier. It is in the title. This is the semi-final between Moscow 5 and Fnatic. Game number 1. The winner of this game is going to face off against Team Mega Shock in the grand final tomorrow. And of course, myself, Quickshot, and Studio are bringing you all the action. Once again, I do apologize about that lag earlier on, but it does appear to have cleared up. So we're in for a great set if this continues.
You did your thing, Quickshot. You fixed all the lag issues. So, shoutouts to you. And actually, I hope Team Mega Shock is watching right now, just taking notes like crazy, just making sure they know everything about who they're going to be facing.
Well, it's definitely what they should be doing. It's definitely what they should be doing. You know, coming up against a team like this, a very nice crystallized wall keeps Diamond Procs out for a couple of seconds, but effectively nothing happens because the wave clear from both Kenan and Vlad is really powerful. If you add a volley into that as well, there's going to be no creeps under that tower for any time at all.
Minions everywhere are just running in fear. The advantage is they can always try and get a little bit of poke off, and a crystallized wall will save whoever gets that poke at the tower. But yeah, they just murder creeps. But so does Anivia, so pushing in this game is going to be incredibly difficult for both teams. They need to rely on, well, Anivia to not have a blue buff, or just get a lot of... You can't even poke down Darian and Alexich, actually, because of their spell vamp. So they just need to kill them at some other point. Pushing is not really possible in this game, unfortunately. Even with that Baron buff, I think there's just going to be enough mana regen on Xpika with blue buff to just deny everything.
Well, now that you mentioned that, you know, yes, okay, wave clear is going to be very quick. Yes, you know, defending is going to be very strong. But Diamond Procs has Shen. Diamond Procs can split push. You know, he's going to be able to move up when he wants. And you can see right now, he's putting pressure on this bottom tower. Fnatic are going to be forced to send somebody. So even though the wave clear is strong, this is now a free tower for Moscow 5 because they don't have the split pushing power.
That's actually a great observation. Like, I noticed that when you said, like, he's going to point out the Shen. Oops. He's going to kill that tower, and they're not going to do anything to stop him. But, yeah, great call on that, and... Uh-oh. Can they pause this? They should be able to pause this.
It's live realm, so I don't know if it's next patch where you can pause.
That patch?
I think it's next patch.
Okay. I don't know if Europe actually got that patch because it broke North America for a while. But,
well, oh, okay, so that's why the server actually died on NA. All of the extra pressure from pause and replay.
Well, I don't know if it was from the pause. It was just they changed a lot of database and server side stuff that, like, I don't know anything about, but I can just say, you know, server side stuff. And it turns out the servers could not handle it. League of Legends does have a pretty big player base. And sorry guys, we
oh, look at this pressure in the top lane. Genji's now committing to pressure on Soaz, has Guardian's Angel up, tosses out that arrow that is going to proc Guardian's Angel. It does, in fact, but Soaz goes down. Manages to 1v1 Genji, well, Genji in fact committing to that fight, knowing he had GA and knowing he had Stand United. So even a man down, not afraid to make the plays, and I think that caught Fnatic napping just a little bit.
And I wouldn't be surprised if trying to make these plays because they are a man down, because without Darian, this is just an unfortunate situation. I don't believe they have announced to Moscow 5 that they have a DC. They have not, or not to Moscow 5, but to Fnatic. Oh, thank God. Oh man, there's a speech I hate making, and that is what should the team who has 5 do? Yeah. And the answer is never pleasant. It's always like, well, they should probably try to win, but people might hate them. So I'm so glad Darian is back, so we don't have to make that speech. And he just completed his death cap, so Darian is going balls out. I'm just going to put it out there. No real defensive spell or items except for a Woda. He actually even has a blue potion. He just wants to kill people. And as Vladimir, this is actually considered pretty scary. So this dragon will go to Fnatic though, trying to close up that gold lead, which is what Moscow 5 did to close it actually, picking up dragons. It's only a 5,000 gold advantage in favor of Moscow 5. Moscow 5 looking so strong. They're just very coordinated. They're playing well. That ultimate from Diamond Procs to pick off Soaz as Genja did. I mean, incredibly aggressive dive.
And now Moscow 5 should be able to pick up this tower. Look how quickly it goes down. They are committing to this fight though. Hemoplague gets tossed out. That only lands on Soaz, so that's a bit of a whiffed ability. Diamond Procs doesn't manage to taunt anybody either. The crescendo goes out. That was effective. But at the moment, Fnatic looking strong. They haven't managed to pick up any kills though. Corki forced to back away. And all those abilities, and truth be told, not very many of them are well-timed or well-placed.
Oh yeah, no, Hemoplague hitting one person is not what you want. It's a long cooldown, it is the brunt of the damage, and even Alexich, he had to respawn with his ultimate, and it wasn't really a good ultimate. It hit one person, maybe 1 or 2 people, But that fight pretty much going in favor of Fnatic as it could have in terms of skill usage, and they're still behind. They still came out a little bit behind. The Thornmail actually now completed on Anivia. I like this quite a bit, just because Ashe can burst her down so quickly, and with that Thornmail, it's a lot of armor, it's a lot of defense. And the way Thornmail works, it doesn't actually reflect the damage done to you. It reflects the damage done before armor mitigation. So when she is in egg form, Ashe will just kill herself on that egg.
And take a look now, you've just mentioned itemization. Force of Nature completed on Cyanide and Maokai. We've got the Zeke's Herald sitting on Gosu Pepper's Sona. So a couple of different items, and they're going to be trying to rush this Baron. It is going down, but I don't think it's going down quickly enough. That may have been a Baron bait. The stun lands and a long-range twisted advance. Cyanide is now caught out of position. The rest of Fnatic's not there to help, but neither is Moscow 5. This is a bad position for Moscow 5 if Fnatic had decided to commit. But this time around, they play the smart move and actually run back as Ashe Arrow comes out that lands onto Cyanide. Emo Plague is available, and that gets every single member of Fnatic. Bar for Lamia. The taunt goes out, manages to completely whiff. That catches no one, so there's no damage reduction. Double kill now for Fnatic. One on Soaz, one onto Peke. Soaz is now going to keep pushing forward. There goes that Blade Surge. A very aggressive Valkyrie coming out from Lamia, in fact. Now he's going to keep putting the damage, but look how much damage that Transfusion takes away. And that was a great fight once they'd re-engaged. But yeah, the Shadow Dash taunt not catching anyone.
Just an overcommitment from Diamprox. He does not have the tankiness that Shen does in the top lane. He just has an Aegis and Frozen Mallet, and I guess also Heart of Gold. So he has a lot of raw HP, but Ghost Pepper getting caught against XP, trying to put those wards on, trying to stop that Baron, but that might actually just secure it as a response.
Oh, there comes in the Slicing Maelstrom. That's putting a lot of damage down. Baron is still bashing away on some people. Alexich is going to go down in the background. Baron is now given some time to regen. Cyanide's going to commit to this fight, but he's got to be so more careful. He may go down while all that's happening. Valkyrie after Darien. Darien somehow manages to escape with 140 hit points and a super, super low Fnatic. Pick up 4 kills at the end of the day after that entire duration. And the Baron buff, but they're still 2,000 gold behind. But this Baron buff may keep them back in the game. 35 minutes, match number 1 of a potential 3. And I'm over the moon for this one.
So with that Baron buff, here comes Fnatic. Here's your chance to be like, alright. We had it early. We kind of slipped up a bit early in the mid-game. Let you guys get some good ultimates off. But now that we fought you, now that twice your ultimates have just not been effective, you guys have split up a bit too much for your AoE heavy composition. We have Baron buff. We have a 2,000 gold deficit, but you guys still have 3 outer turrets, and we're just going to come back and kick your butt. That's what Fnatic is going to try and do, as what their actions will say. But will they be successful? I think they can do it. I think they can do a lot of pushing right now, put on so much pressure and pain. And that Baron fight in 7 minutes right now will be like the end of the game for either team. But there's always that possibility that the wave clear will just be too amazing. Always a possibility that Fnatic just does not want to commit to anything too terrifying. But right now, with Darien in that bot lane and this creep wave more or less melting, be a good word for it, we now have this mid turret being pressured and only 4 to defend.
All the ultimates are up and available now for Moscow 5. Darien is getting there very, very quickly, so they'll probably pick up this tower. The inhibitor tower is going to be the one that's going to determine this big fight. But of course, Genja does have Guardian's Angel as well, so Guardian's Angel stands united, the ability to come back and keep putting that damage down, although slightly weird positioning, in fact.
The Ashe outside of base position, not very popular among anybody who wants Ashe to live.
And that's something now we need to remember about that crystallized wall being used to completely zone out Moscow 5. Oh, the Shadow Dash taunt once again, not catching a single person. Felt a little bit optimistic. That was a long-range dash taunt.
Shen just unable to get close enough to whisper insults into his enemy's ear.
And the wall is now going to be available again. 21 seconds on that cooldown. So every 20 seconds, Fnatic can zone out the Moscow 5 players and at least put some damage down. The stun does in fact land onto Darien, so that's a lot of early damage. Was considering the follow-up, but just look how quickly they clear these waves. Someone's going to have to tank a tower, and I don't know if Fnatic are strong enough to do that just yet.
Genja actually gets zoned out in the same position again. The root is onto him, but he's in actually good position. Here comes the ultimate Alexich.
Manages to carry away. That crescendo goes out. The first person to fall will be Cyanide, and this is a fight that's going very, very well for Moscow 5. A nice short-range Flash Frost there from Xpeke. Locks up Diamond Prox. He's going to keep running. The slow there from the ultimate is going to be enough to prevent the chase, but you know, Fnatic committing for that fight, and eventually it was actually turned around on them. They didn't really have the burst to kill anybody once they landed the root.
And really, it's just overcommitments coming in from both Diamond Procs and Cyanide. Both of them, they're starting fights in fairly weak positions. Like, it looks okay. On paper, it looks like it could be good. You know, Ashe outside her base, no one really that close to her, but, you know, the second people popped out of her base, all of a sudden Ashe was in this really good bottleneck position, where to get to her, you'd have to chase through this tiny little area, and guess what? In that tiny little area, there is a tiny little Yordle named Cannon shooting out lightning, and a very angry blood vampire thing named Darian, or Vladimir, just, you know, using his hemo play in Tides of Blood. So it actually was a great bottleneck for Moscow 5 to fight in compared to the last engagement, where when Diamond Procs flashed and whipped his Shadow Dash, that was actually a really just long, you know, wind around Baron that was just amazing for the Fnatic lineup because it didn't have to deal with that AoE, just blowing them up. So right now the gold back in favor of Moscow 5 by a decent amount. You know, not the end of the game amount, like not completely out of the water, but Moscow 5 looking really strong right now. That was some good organization. That's what's going to win these team fights. Not items right now. Items will most certainly help, but just some good coordination. Some teams just saying, all right, we need to engage when we see this opening, and that opening being the right one.
So it's not exactly like you said. It's going to come down to positioning. It's going to come down to those gaps, those mistakes, the failed dashes, the failed crescendos, and whichever team can capitalize on those. But at this point in the game, it's pretty much going to equal GG. Another strong team fight victory for either team from a misstep, from a gap in opening, is going to cost the inhibitors potentially the Nexus as well. So we're waiting to see what happens. We're waiting to see who's going to, you know, create the big play or fail, create a big mistake. And take a look at now, once again, let's have a look at itemizations. Abyssal Scepter on Peke. Thornmail, need to see Large Rod as well as that Rod of Ages, and the Chalice of Harmony, in fact. And I've seen a Chalice of Harmony being worn by Gosu Pepper. So I wonder if we can eventually see an Athene's Unholy Grail being worn by Sona, and it makes perfect sense.
It'd be awesome. The Chalice, though, amazing on Sona if you want to just go for a more sustain-oriented lane, which against that Soraka is a pretty good idea. You can take a lot of harassment from Corki because he's just going to throw out his Yordle plane out there just because, I mean, you can't really out-harass Soraka as Ashe. She will just have too much healing going on.
And once again, we see that split pushing coming into play. You know, Peke has been left alone in that top lane, and this could prove detrimental because they really need his burst and the utility of that crystallized wall. And now he's trying to commit. We do see the fight going out. Darren was the one that was snared. He's been split off to the side. Crystallize is now on the left-hand side. There's a little bit of split focus here from Fnatic. The Slicing Maelstrom goes out. That only manages to catch two people. Ashe Arrow now comes out. They're focusing Cyanide, and that's the wrong target because he's just going to walk away from this one. The carries are all still on full health. Soaz is going to get his Guardian's Angel proc very, very shortly. A small bit of server lag there. Vladimir managed to pick up one kill. Soaz is left to the pasture now. He's going to flash away, in fact, and gets the safety. So it's 1 for 1. But trading your jungler for AP mid is a fair trade any day of the week. Rebirth is available on XPK, but he doesn't have the mana to do a whole lot more, and this may cost him the inhibitor. Oh, a very aggressive Gosu. Flashes forward, almost picks up the kill. 8 health. Now he's going to end up costing him his life, in fact. Miscalculating his damage by 8.
The hell, Gosu?
By 8. But it could have been good. Oh, now we look at that. Equilibrium Strike goes out. The Guardian's Angel is still available on Genja, and he has red buff. No lifesteal though, so quickly have a look. Very, very small amount. There goes the flash. Equilibrium. He's going to be looking for the kill. Hemo Plague is up. The Shadow Dash taunt means he goes down. The lifesteal from Darren is just too strong, and all they managed to do is proc the Guardian's Angel, so giving up a kill once again. But they do pick up the inhibitor turret, and that means that when they want to siege that mid lane, that's what he's going to need to do. You know, push that mid lane or pick up the inhibitor and potentially then force the other lanes down for a win.
And right now, Baron has actually just respawned, and M5, they need to go heal up very quickly. They're in a really good position to take this, though. Darian actually still roaming around, has so much spell vent that he can just, you know, get all of his HP back without really doing anything. And though he has a decent amount of gold to spend, he actually could finish Quicksilver Sash, I believe he is buying right now. Or that could be a second Abyssal. I'm actually not too sure. Wait, no. Zhonya's, I think? Yes. Sorry, he has both a large rod and the
armor.
Negatron cloak.
Oh,
So it's
yes.
just like,
What will it be? What will it be? But
could
now
be a lot of things. A second death cap.
it's also possible. We do see Baron is now being started. It's down to a very, very low hit point total. 3,000. Is Cyanide going to be able to jump across? Their saplings are going out. The stun goes out as well. Down to 1,200 hit points. Flash comes over the wall. Fnatic steal it. They manage to steal Baron buff. Cyanide is going to lose his life for that. But huge, huge play. The flash steal, that gives them Baron Nashor. They are still 3,000 gold behind, and now they have to try to defend an inhibitor. One player down, but Baron is theirs.
They have that massive buff. They have more or less control. They will lose this inhibitor. The inhibitor is gone. They will lose that second inhibitor. They are... Oh, crap. I just fast-forwarded too far. I forgot we were behind. What time are you at?
44 minutes at the moment. Sorry, 43:40. So let me take a look at this one. It is 43:45 as we're ticking. They managed to take down an inhibitor. Cyanide is still out for the next 30 seconds. They're going to be pushing down this lower lane tower. Darien takes a lot of damage, in fact. But it is going to be 2 inhibitors down. Now, we've seen Fnatic come back from 2 inhibitors down versus Cursey U, but can they do it against Moscow 5? That is the question.
Sorry about that. Because of the delay we had, we actually had to, pause the game briefly, and I forgot about that. And when I went to go ahead and check to see if it was a Smite that stole it, and I was fast forwarding towards the end of the game, which, well, not the end of the game, but just, live, which hasn't really happened for us yet. So sorry about that. But this is looking so strong for Moscow 5 because they have these 2 inhibitors down. With that, Baron buff Fnatic is kind of scary. But they're on a timer. Yeah, they're pushing out right now, which they need to do. If they do not push out, do not get something done in that brief amount of time before super minions start showing up at their base and pushing down their Nexus turrets, Moscow 5 will just take control of the lanes, just pressure them so hard, it's going to be just, hard for them to respawn. This is their final push. This is their all-in to try and take this game back.
Now we are going to see the huge engagement happening. Fnatic are caught in the Hemo Plague. They're caught in all that AoE damage. First kill is going to be Cyanide. Now Gosu Pepper picks up 1 in reply. Darien is chasing down. That's 3 players, 4 players down for Fnatic. And they're just going to rush this Nexus. This should be the GG. Going to carry on pushing flashes, shadow dashes, taunts. Every single movement ability is being blown out from Fnatic from Moscow 5 at the moment. And that is definitely going to be a GG.
Very well played from Moscow 5. Coming, like, at the beginning, they were on the brink. They were in a bad position. They were just getting wrecked across all the lanes, except bottom. Bottom was doing decently. They came back, just taking map control, taking dragon control, showing their strength, and then the AoE composition just proving its effectiveness. Vladimir Cannon, we don't see that one too common. We see Karthus very commonly. And a very well-played game, going on to game 2 out of 3, or a possible 3, Fnatic versus Moscow 5.
I would definitely say the Vladimir Cannon combo. It's one that we see, I don't want to say hugely often, but it's definitely played over here in EU quite commonly, in fact, because both the champions super, super powerful, super, super strong. So there is your final endgame score. This was match number 1, everybody. This is, of course, the semi-finals in the IPL5 EU qualifier. My name is Quickshot. Studio is the co-caster for today, and we're going to be jumping into game number 2. But before we do have to have an advert break, so stick with us. This is a best of 3 and 2 awesome games still potential.